focus for them for sure, but it's going to be bot lane dominated. So the most important things that you're going to be looking for are that sort of level 6 dive windows that we have seen with the Realm Warp so often. With the Cataclysm and the EQ combo, it's very difficult for bot laners to escape. So I think that's going to be their big break point. I don't think you're going to see much early game though. Early game, neither the mid lane or the top lane do have a lot of kill pressure. So it should be relatively quiet until level 6. And on the other side for CFO, it's also quite interesting. I think they're going to be heading a little bit more towards the top side. If you get a good push on the top side, there could be some dive potential. But otherwise, I think they're looking for sort of like a first strike potential. Like if they get the fight before PSG can set up, then they theoretically should have the advantage given their composition.
Which is kind of interesting because we did talk about CFO, you know, not putting too much attention to Rest. Like Gemini and Mission are the mid-jungle duo. Rest often fending off the 1v2 dives, the 1v2 plays, like as we saw in their last game. So this time around, making it a little bit more interesting with the Jace up in the top side as we enter Summoner's Rift. CFO versus PSG. This is a catch-up game, hence having 6 games tonight. PSG playing back-to-back games, and one of the ones that we unfortunately missed about a week ago was the matchup in front of us. And now that we get it, we get to find out a little bit closer to, you know, who's one of the top teams. CFO win this. They hold themselves in first with a nice game lead. PSG could tie themselves up as well with the top 2 teams as well, with DCG a little bit above them. So kind of exciting to get this wrapped up because as we go into this game, Clement, we've also got drafts that I think are a little bit out of left field. We had a lot of 80 carry bands coming through, hence we now have a Zyra in the game who has started with a longsword, and the Zyras we've been seeing recently with the Airy coming through, the lethality, the Q max, meaning poke, has been pretty deadly within the lane.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of interesting to see kind of Xayah getting back into the grind with other champions. On 12.4, she was buffed in terms of her Blade Caller damage, so we actually see people not really maxing Blade Caller as much as in previous splits. It's kind of interesting when you buff it. It's like, well, I only need 1 Blade Caller. I don't need the cooldown to go down. Like, 1's probably enough damage to go through. So we actually see a shift more towards the Q and kind of the poke that you have mentioned. But overall, she's definitely buffed on 12.4, and what you're looking for is a little bit more of that burst damage at the start of fights. Ooh, level 2.
Hang on, look mid. Yeah, let's zoom it in. The root comes down. Mission takes a wallop to the face, and Juhan with a level 2 gank on Jarvan takes Mission's flash just like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit mistimed. We saw the Rune Prison land after the Jarvan showed up, so I feel like that combo could have gone a little bit better, or at least they could have just gotten a free flash for flash trade. You know, still is going to be a slight advantageous to Juhan, but it doesn't mean Gemini will get a 2-camp lead, and now he's charging into the enemy jungle.
But he is spotted out, so Juhan knows he's here. He's walking into trouble. Double buff v double buff. They kiss each other and then leave, and now for the second date. As Gemini pops the ghost, he's a little bit more serious. And Juhan waiting to flag and drag in. Bay using that opportunity to force Mission out. And around the jungle mid 2v2 club, but it looks like this is where our game will start. Not just for CFO.
Yeah, neither mid laners has their flash at this point.
Oh my
Mission
god!
gets knocked up.
Juhan commits a flash right in front of the enemy jungle with first blood! PSG's jungle with an absolute Chad move.
Well done from Juhan. He was just trying to play with the anticipation move. Like, I think Mission thought he was safe. He knew that Gemini was right around the corner, and Juhan caught him red-handed. You know, that was coming out of vision and using the flash to reduce the reaction time coming out of Mission. He just couldn't react fast enough.
A great start to the game after the flash burn. I didn't expect him to arrive that quickly, so kind of doing the do-si-do, and with First Blood going down, the CS lead you talked about for Gemini, meaning less and less. So for PSG, giving the mid lane a bit of leeway as well, Clement. Bay in a great position, and with this wave kind of crushing out against him, curious to see if Juhan just doubles down and keeps putting pressure on CFO's mid.
It could definitely be a possibility. You can tell by the way that Mission is positioning. He's probably not going past River anymore in this matchup, not until he gets his flash up. So it will allow a lot of time for PSG to roam across the map. And we're looking ahead to that 7-minute mark where Rise should, in theory, be able to kind of lead this lane. You know, Mission's not going to get his flash up before that. And that will allow the potential for the Cataclysm Realm Warp to do that 4v2 into the bot side. Now we have Koala coming in, but he is getting spotted.
Yeah, he is. It's a level 14 Jarvan here from Juhan. He's walking down towards his Krugs, and Gemini going to be spotted out on the control ward as well. Bay just dancing behind the river himself. And as the jungler leaves lane, Clement, you're talking a little bit about these ultis. I think it's important to note as well that while we talk a lot about how PSG can position with the ultimates at that 7-minute mark. For CFO, Shockwave, Onslaught of Shadows, the Hekra Moriana ulti, are key factors that you talk about in draft as well. Walk me through how you use it. Is it Herald usage? Is it first couple of objectives where they come into play?
So I think the strength of this combo is just the sheer range that they can kill someone with. Gemini can go really far forward, you can have the ball on him, and then you can finish off with Atlan's damage on the Jhin. So the way I'm reading this composition, it's more of a rotational and catch composition. I don't think it's necessarily all that strong in a 5v5 position. Ooh, Kaiwing.
Yeah, but the root's still going to come through. For Unified and Kaiwing, the 2v2 a success even after Kaiwing misses. Clement, continue. You're on the ball.
Yeah, so I feel like for CFO, a couple things that are important to get catch compositions going is that you need winning side lanes. You need to stretch the map across. And here we have Bay going for another kill.
It's not even, it's a realm warp to mid. Bay tried to wrap around pretending he's going bot, and Mission didn't buy the bait.
That was fairly interesting. Very risky, but way off the mark, I've got to say. I feel like Juhan and Bay are just trying to catch Mission off guard by the sheer amount of ganks that they're throwing his way. Like,
yep. I just love how he's sticking around. I mean, he's constantly in the face of Gemini, but I think Gemini now having a pretty good understanding that mid's fine, and he's still ahead by now 10 CS.
Yeah, that's a very interesting move. I felt like there was a lot more potential for them to actually get things going if they went into the bottom side with that Realm Warp. We could see in the trades that they were definitely winning out, and they have the push advantage there too. So they don't lose anything for sure, but there is like an opportunity cost that was expended there where I felt like PSG would have had a lot more threat going bot lane rather than going mid. We'll see how they play it out, though.
Well, it is that 7-minute mark. Realm Warp's not going to be up and available, so we don't actually get to see that play come into fruition. And Juhan, because of his time spent mid for now, is still level 5. Gemini has Onslaught of Shadows available. Mission with his Shockwave too. We're going to Herald in 30 seconds, Clement, and it does feel like CFO with their, I was going to say Summoner's advantage as well, but it looks pretty even across the board. Ultimate advantage going to be a big deal as Juhan. You'd have to make your way out. Gemini, he doesn't steal it, but he wants the kill. Cataclysm comes down. A lot of burst damage, but Gemini with the Onslaught of Shadows won't take him out. Kaiwing with the hero play to save his jungler and dragon.
Beautifully done coming in there. Juhan with the AD items actually took a huge chunk out of Gemini. I don't think Gemini just expected that damage. I felt like he was thinking that he could just kill them, and Juhan also got the level 6 off of the Drake. So turning the calculations in a split second. And as we were talking about, that bot lane has been in favor of Unified and Kaiwing throughout the majority of the game. Unified willing to expend double summoners just to make sure they get that kill and secure the objective.
So first dragon goes over. Hexgate coming up next, or excuse me, Hextech is coming for the second dragon. As we look at the replay, Clement, because you're right, the burst damage kind of made Juhan in a better position than he should have been.
Yeah, the Smite fight really changed that so much. Juhan getting the level up, getting his Conqueror up, was able to survive that. And we saw Kaiwing and Unified, they knew that this play was going to develop, high chance of it, and they were waiting there.
We now move back to Herald as we're on live, and you can see with the 1k gold lead, PSG feeling confident. They're already on top of it. As it gets taken down, the eye hit again. Juhan's going to get yet another snipe. CFO committed 5 members here, so there is no trade play. It is just a Herald. The CFO try to go back to their lanes.
I feel like CFO don't really have the raw power in a straight-up fight, a fight where you can't poke out your opponent to take PSG front to back. I feel like for CFO, they need to utilize catching a little bit more. This is not exactly a front-to-back composition they will win with, especially if you think about the potential build of like the Frozen Heart that could come out of Bay. It just seems like CFO, they need to be a little bit more creative with this comp. They went in with a very interesting strategy, but so far, I'm not sure we're seeing the benefits of it. They're not losing bot lane so much, but If you're going to triple ban Unified and first pick an AD carry, you do kind of expect a little bit more value out of it.
You'd want something. And talking about creativity as well, like we have Rest, we have Atlan on this team who, you know, Jin, Jace, Clement, playing with a range advantage here, a good way to kind of dust them off before these objectives. And you talk about the creativity, and it feels like for CFO, for a top team, that creativity shouldn't be a problem, considering there are a lot of moving parts in this composition you've already highlighted.
Yeah, I understand why CFO, I think, went for the Jace and in the very end. I think their idea is that we have to outrange this Zaya. That's usually the best way to deal with her, where her blade collar is pretty much nullified because you're not in range. But I think they're a little bit too hopeful with that assumption, because PSG actually have incredibly strong engage options. If they can't find the opportunity to front to back, like, they could still realm warp Jarvan with a stopwatch into your backline. You're not getting away from that. So I just feel like CFO might have outgamed themselves into some composition deficits that they're not aware of. Here we go.
As Realm Warp comes through, Mission has already gone forward. Now, these Realm Warps, Clement, I will say, as we are complimenting the draft from PSG, FaZe Realm Warps so far have been a big swing and a miss.
Yeah, I really don't like these sort of casual Realm Warps. It's much easier to pincer someone in when you just Realm Warp underneath their tower. Some good vision game by Juhan here. Not going to result into a lot. But, you know, Unified at this point, he does have to sustain in lane, which just means that he can constantly shove Atlan in. He's also building the tier, so both his mana and HP bars are going to be full. I would just want to see them actually just try and use that Realm Warp into the bot lane in much more standard, I would say, LPL fashion.
I guess we have to wait a little bit. Hanabi with the ulti against the wall. This has the potential as Rest going to take the house to his head once again. Really nice hit from Hanabi in the top lane, because Clement, we talked about him and we said that with the right utensils, he would be as good as Rest in the 1v1.
And he's doing it in a matchup where he blind picked the Gnar. Jace is supposed to be a counter pick, and he never fell behind in CS. I was watching this lane. He was always in the lead. Gemini spotted here. Not much going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't matter, because look at Rest. No mana, no HP. Teleport is available here as Hanabi is just in such a great piece of movement. There's an Eclipse picked up, but he's going to take this wave, teleport to respond to if he wants, and I guess we're going to find out if he's going to use it, because Dragon's coming up in 20 seconds, Clement, and that Gnar is going to be just as strong as Rest now is.
I honestly feel like CFO, they have to make some sort of a catch here. They have to get on the board. Their best way of playing this one is likely to catch out Bay when he is still in the mid lane or in rotation towards the Drake. I don't give them good chances if they have to fight a straight-up 5v5 against PSG at this point.
Because we've already seen, you know, the catch potentials, the engage potentials there on PSG's side too, as they start the Dragon up. And CFO coming from different angles. Mission Shockwave, Gemini's Onslaught of Shadows, those are the tools we want to see. As PSG grouped up as 4, the Dragon's already down. Bay going to get shot down, and Clement, while Dragon goes and nothing comes to it, I want to point out, do you know that there are elevation mechanics in League of Legends, especially with Jin's Deadly Flourish? So in River, if it's straight across, it most of the time won't hit because the position outside of the river is more elevated than the river itself.
Okay, so it actually kind of like changes the bullet. Like your W moves with the terrain, not like a real bullet.
Kind of like that as well. I get the hook on in. Kaiwing caught out on Sword of Shadows to pick him off, but that quick escape, man, that was smooth, and the camera couldn't even catch that 1 second of movement.
3 ultimates and an ignite. They don't even get the flash out of Kaiwing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
E with the Zaya, dude. The range is massive, and I guess one part of why we see this duo when one is picked.
Yeah, Kaiwing knew his limits so damn well there. You know, he gets the Guardian off and is just able to escape just like that. Doesn't even need the heal from Unified for that one. That's also a problem about CFO and their catch sort of strategy is they don't have a lot of targets where it actually makes sense. Only Mininar and Bay, I think, are legitimate targets. And that just makes the execution of this composition so much harder. I just feel like I would have rather seen a game plank against the Gnar. I feel like a stronger matchup in some senses, and the damage is far more consistent.
And more options globally, right? You know, that ultimate and what it provides. If you're talking about the pickoffs, the catch-outs, like peppering them down before fights, setting up for the Hecarim, the shockwave from Oriana, like, you're right, the execution would have been that little bit easier. But now here from Rest has to be involved, has to be able to get his setup as well. And for PSG, Clement, it's a 2k gold lead just about here at the 15-minute mark. 2 Dragons with an Ocean Soul coming up as well. And Juhan's the one who's been picking up all the kills. He's now got a Gore Drinker. He's got a bounty on his head as well. And for Gemini, he might be up in CS, but so far in this game, his impacts have had about, his ultis, I should say, have had about much impact as base.
And that is pretty much to say, absolutely no impact whatsoever.
There you go.
The 2 ultimates we got in, the Drake didn't get a kill. We saw the second one on a pick and Kai Wing, still didn't get a kill. And now this is not their home turf for CFO anymore.
It's not. His Ignite comes down, the quickness as well. PSG burn a couple of flashes for this. They're deep in enemy territory, and Gemini won't get charmed on the way out. A PSG going deep, but they're not punished. CFO is making sure they get away.
Yeah, and there was no ultimates expended on CFO, but they lose so much HP that they have to trade across the map. This is the second time that CFO has actually moved their bot lane to try and do this Herald to absolutely no avail and have to walk back. So it's not just the contest that they're losing, they're also losing on the farm that usually is the big equalizer to this play. And you can see PSG now searching ahead in terms of the gold lead. I don't see CFO actually getting a silent advantage anymore, which means they're going to be forced into 5v5s. They're going to have to chance with those poke opportunities.
Or get picked off. Because look, here's the party. Bay has finally brought in a great Realm Warpers against the wall. Rest will get none of that. Hanabi in his ultimate judges up the damage and says, howdy. PSG with their first turret of the game, and Mr. Clement Chu, that's a Realm Warp I can get behind.
Yes, please, use your Realm Warp behind towers. The enemy cannot escape from Realm Warp behind towers. That's the most efficient way to use it. And even if you don't use it, there's so much pressure. That's why I don't think you should just like throw out random Realm Warps on cooldown. I think throughout that play, the most important thing to remember here is that they still have the Herald. The Herald has not been expended, so they're looking for triple outside outer rim towers at this point. And boy, oh boy, I feel like CFO really messed up that top lane pick. The J so far has done absolutely nothing. Has not won lane, has not had any meaningful poke. And if you just think about it, the game blank, we have seen so many cannon barrage into captive audience combinations. That is your sort of go signal. You can catch people on the sidelines really easily with that combo. I feel like CFO have just sort of, I feel like they outsmarted themselves in a lot of ways. They picked the Jin and it was like, what do we build around this? It's like, well, long range, kind of poke, and then Juhan is like, okay, I'm just gonna go Jarvan.
And you know, banning out a carry like Unified comes in with a Zyre, and it's been fine through the lane. Further on the 80 carry pick, I mean, Atlan hasn't had a super amazing laning phase. In fact, he's CS down when he's been moving every single time. We're gonna get another fight as Koala wants to commit, but Unified, of course, he just ulties, misses the blade call, but it doesn't matter. Kai Wing again with a triple knockup, and Juhan wants to clean up the rest. The burn onto Mission continues to quell, but PSG, their comp is so much simpler, Clement.
It definitely is. You just run at the opposition. Again, we were talking about how CFO have very limited targets that they can actually go against. I think going against Xayah there was very opportunistic, and you could see that Mission did not even get a chance to use that shockwave combination because there was a bunch of people standing right on top of him, forward and backwards, and now they're going to lose another Drake.
Curtain call's going to come out, but everyone disengaging. Hanabi is pretty tanky, even as a mini-9. Gemini's deep for this one. Shock Blast did nothing. Unified flashing away, but he's going to have the feathers out. And as the jungler goes down and Hanabi trades his life, Bay joins in the Shockwave late. I don't know what CFO are doing at this point, but they're thinking that going that deep will be okay. On to Bay once more. Rest needs to join up. He's killing a ward for now, as Bay's right in the middle of the pit. Juhan doesn't want to re-engage now. But both
Unified's
teams,
coming.
It's a bit of a question mark. Unified is running at them, and there's the flag and drag. Shock Blast again. Rest not doing enough damage. The Jace will move away, and PSG didn't even lose anyone apart from Hanabi.
And Hanabi barely died right there. He was about to go into Mega Gnar. He would have survived that one, and it would have been a complete wipe for CFO. A couple of things to note right here. First, their catch target selection was definitely off. They need to go for Bay at this point. I don't think he's as tanky as people think he is. He's just completed the Winter's Approach right now. So I feel like for Nautilus and Koala, you have to be more selective on your targets. And this fight, for me, the positioning was all off. It was very difficult for CFO to actually approach from the ramp, especially when you have Unified right there. Gemini is not much of a damage threat. So PSG are pretty happy to just stand their ground. And we don't see Atlan targeting Kaiwing. You know, the execute damage on Hanabi is negligible, and you can see Hanabi almost survives right here. So CFO over chase. I just don't feel like they have a composition that actually chases down all that well. They don't have a lot of speed ups on their composition. This was a somewhat winnable situation for CFO, but once Unified show up, they had to back out. They needed to get the kill onto Bay before Unified was able to join the fray here, and they just kind of bleed out even more members.
And every time you think, oh, it's all right, Rest will get a shock blast back, the damage isn't there. The damage against this team not doing enough, and PSG get away with a huge fight, pushes them up to 5,000 gold. They also get the dragon that Gemini tried to steal. They're on solve point. They are well and truly in control, and always have been, of this game. And as we open up and as PSG catch up against CFO for the first time, I feel like seeing this game is a really good sign of life for PSG. That's what we already knew, that this team was a top 4, top 3 contender at the very least.
Yeah, they play a very suffocating style. You give them an inch in the early game, and they will just hammer it home on the objective plays over and over again. I don't think they are, you know, I would like to see them take more risks, but that's just the LPL spirit talking inside of me. I definitely would have wanted to see them do more tower dives. But, you know, I think they're playing a very standard sort of style, pre-LCKS game where it's slow, grindy, suffocating, but always superior in terms of the teamfight setup, especially around these rigs.
And even if they get picks like this as well, right, for PSG, a little bit deep, Kaiwing forces it though, and Gemini runs in once again. The Ghost, I believe, was popped, or at least... no, we got ourselves a phase rush Hecarim, excuse me. And it's, again, PSG going deeper and deeper for this vision line. And CFO trying to find a pick themselves before this dragon spawns, because Ocean Soul looks a little bit free at this point.
Ocean Soul is probably the worst one if you're CFO. You're trying to poke them down, you don't have map control, pick isn't an option anymore. Your only hope is Rest and Atlan somehow taking Juhan or taking Unified down low. I just don't see that happening, especially with the Ocean Soul going towards PSG. So I feel like if I'm CFO, this is an all-or-nothing moment. If they get Ocean Soul, my chances in the game are next to nil. So I expect them to be able to give up. I would be willing to give up the top tier 2 tower just for a better setup on this objective.
Well, 45 seconds. They're going to start moving now. Teleport's available for both Rest and Mission. We haven't seen the Onslaught of Shadow Shockwave combination. We haven't seen Curtain Call comboed with Shock Blast or some of the ultis I just mentioned. Koala in the last fight as well, Clement, used his ulti on Unified in order to force out Unified to pop into the Featherstorm. But the problem is PSG have so many of these tools that it comes down to such precise mechanics that need to be spot on. And with Dragon coming up in 15 seconds, I'm really hoping for the best for CFO to give us those perfect combinations.
I do see the poke coming in. CFO, as we anticipated, is going to go all in onto this objective. But Koala right now, he doesn't have the HP anymore.
One-man Shockwave.
Juhan.
And he goes golden. It's the Jarvan who's going to buy space. They want to get the jungler, but he flags and drags in the team, protecting him. Bay tanking up at this point, and Hanabi about to go Mega Gnar. Curtain Call being delayed, but everybody's out for now. The poke from Unified, disgusting. Rest the second time. He hasn't got that Shock Blast or a Hex Gate. And as CFO move into the pit, their health bars are glimmering.
That was just an auto QE combo coming in from Unified, taking Rest down to below half HP. We're talking about the poke game. Unified does a lot of good poke himself, and Koala might be going a little bit too far forward. They're just biding time here for Juhan to get his HP bar back up, and I like this positioning from Koala. He's trying to deny the ramp, but PSG are still fighting.
Realm Warp. It's a Realm Warp, but he wants to go in onto the pit. The Dragon getting low, reset Cataclysm on the back line as well, but PSG are fighting front to back with Bay now there. Ocean Soul given over. You know what? Bay heard me talking smack as he flashes forward into the koala. That bear ain't got claws. Hanabi gonna slow him down the house, throwing the turret, helping out. Another flash, and that's the loan that he needed to pay. As Mission runs up, it's all done for CFO.
Oh, CFO, they try to hold the ramp, but they forget about the Realm Warp. Bay, with a great use of that ultimate, gets straight into the back line and instantly disperses the entirety of CFO. Mission's got nowhere to go. He's going to fall down. I just, once again, have to say CFO's composition, they have so few outs in these situations. I don't think themselves have a very clear idea on how to play this one out. The Xayah ended up being a stroke of genius. It's just one of those 80 carries that you cannot burst down.
I mean, Unified poke has been deadly. Been more than rest. It's been more than the Jace combo at this point of the game. And with Unified once again stepping up, Kaiwing, of course, alongside with him. They're not going to flip this. It is actually taken by Kaiwing, but as Hanabi's on the backside, he makes sure that Gemini's going to feel the wrath of a Meganara in the wall. An absolute killing spree for Unified, and a Baron to make this game feel even more done than it was.
Yeah, there's so little that CFO can actually do right now. We have most of the armor items on the front line complete. We're going to take another look at this teamfight situation. So what Mission is trying to do is he's trying to burst down Juhan. If he does get the kill onto the jungle, if that succeeds, that means that PSG cannot take this Dragon Soul in peace. But Juhan, very smartly, has already got his stopwatch there. He didn't go for the completed item, went for the stopwatch because this soul is coming up. I think that's a great idea. And you see the poke coming up from Unified. He just does so much damage, and CFO can't find an angle with their composition where they're actually superior against PSG. It just feels like PSG comp has everything covered. They have the better engage, they have the better poke, and as we see right now, this very clever use of Bay to send Kaiwing into the back line, and Rest dies right off the bat. Rest flashes in for the kill onto Unified, does absolutely nothing. And then you see the backline right here. To be honest, the Realm Orb didn't really land all that well onto his target. Atlan actually kills Juhan right off the bat. But it doesn't matter. It's still going to be kill secured. They still scatter their formation, and they get an instant engage where the enemy doesn't get to poke you.
I mean, Hanabi as well, like, you know, not doing too much until he goes into Megadara in that fight, but everyone in PSG feels like they're on the same page. This is a really good game to show the example of why PSG are on that 7-win streak in the PCS. At 27 minutes, they're a team that's pulled up the Ocean Soul against CFO, and the gold lead has moved to about 10,000. The inner turret through mid going down, Bay pushing down bot side, top side as well. This coordination of all three waves, Clement, are putting pressure on CFO in their base.
This is just absolutely brutal to watch. CFO at this point don't even have good wave clear to clear some of this out. Jin is not a strong wave clear champion. They're pretty much reliant on Orianna to help them survive this. And PSG just aren't going to give them the chance. With 10k advantage, I expect PSG to just go all in if CFO even take one step extra.
I mean, Koala missing the dredge line, and PSG with now 2 inhibitor turrets taken down. The second inhibitor will drop as well. You talk about the cleanliness of play, not overstepping their mark, being very delicate as they take this back away with the Baron buff. CFO still on their last legs, but you just kind of wonder how it happened as the Realm Warp's coming through. They're going to bring a minion wave in, or excuse me, 3 members right in front of the inhibitor turret, and that's going to drop as well.
Are you calling Bay a minion? Is that what you're doing? No,
no,
just kidding.
I can't because after the early game, we bagged out his Realm Warp, but now he's been kicking butt as Juhan goes in for the Flash Cataclysm, and Atlan burns his own. Rest now jumping onto Hanabi, but look at this top laner, level 17 with the Mega Narbar brewing, and PSG, nice and easy, does it in under 30 minutes. Made CFO look like nothing. Made them look like the bottom tier team with how one-sided this felt, cleaning up the pieces, as now a Nexus turret is falling very short. Red flag not connecting. Hanabi with the ulti, and Onslaught of Shadows a bit late. Shockwave good, but Clement, that's the first time we've seen the combo, and it's way too late. Mission, the last standing, but not for much longer. A clean ace for PSG in front of the Nexus as they move up and tie with CFO 8-2.
What a
1, I should say.
Dominating game coming out from PSG. We were talking about this league being the J-Team trifecta, but PSG have just